computer. Okay. Hello, Patrick.
Hi,
I am
Rima.
so excited and so honored to chat with you today about health. Welcome and thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, a pleasure. So to the audience watching us who do not know you, I'm going to say a few words to introduce you. And then I will explain how we'll proceed with the chat. So I'm going to read because I don't want to miss anything. Today we have a highly accomplished guest with us, Patrick Georgevitch. Patrick began his professional journey with a degree in physiotherapy that he obtained outside of Canada. He has since refined his academic and professional skills with numerous postgraduate certifications, particularly with mechanical and manual therapy. Not only is Patrick a fitness expert, having become a personal trainer, fitness therapist, and a sports and strength conditioning specialist with various sub-certifications, but he also specializes in performance nutrition. Wow. In addition to these impressive credentials, Patrick pursued a certification in hypnotherapy out of personal curiosity and studied professional photography. I have to say here that I checked some of your work online. I'm so impressed. Photography, I mean.
Thank you.
After relocating to Montreal, Canada, he registered as a kinesiotherapist, took additional certifications in manual therapy, and earned a graduate degree in entrepreneurship and innovation from HEC Montréal. As of May 2024, he is also a certified genetics-based program designer. So please join me in welcoming to Bambi's Afkar a true multidisciplinary expert and innovator, Patrick Georgevitch.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to add something to this introduction, Patrick? Did I miss anything?
You pretty much gave it all. You pretty much gave it all.
Wonderful. So before we start, I have a question, tiny question that came to my mind about kinesiotherapy. I'm not an expert in the massage therapy, but I think it's related to Swedish therapy, isn't it?
Not particularly.
Not particularly.
So, kinesiotherapy is kind of a made-up word in English. Basically, it comes from the French masso-kinésithérapie. In France, the denomination of the physiotherapist is le masso-kinésithérapeute. I relocated to Quebec, and in Quebec, a kinesiothérapeute is an advanced form of massage therapist that does lots of manual therapy, including postural work, tension relief, mobilization, strengthening. So it's kind of a manual part of what used to be physiotherapy outside of Canada. And it's not to be mistaken for kinesiology, which is the study of movement, and which is more about training and sports and exercising for health.
Absolutely important to mention that. Thank you very much. So the patient that you see may have injuries, right? Sports injuries, things like that.
Mostly post physiotherapy rehab, I see them, or they have different kinds of pains, including neck pain, stiffnesses, joint pains, anything really related to physical pain.
Excellent. Thank you. I know some of our viewers might be interested because it's very broad. And it is. So let's talk about the interview format now. So generally speaking, it will be divided into three large themes. Of course, we can deviate a little bit. But the first one is defining health. So what is health? The second one is clarifying myth or misconceptions about health and illness. And the third one is providing some tips for healthy living. And here I would like to say to our viewers or readers, because they read the blog, that if they have any question for you, they can either put it in a comment or email me privately if they wish, and we can re-chat in the future. Thank you for your generosity. So yeah, so this being said...
With pleasure.
Thank you. So this being said, we can now officially start. Before we start, in the middle between the introduction and starting, I have a confession for you. And it's that I'm not a very active person. I'm very active. I'm a deer, right? So I jump and everything, but I'm not into gym. I'm not into exercise. I'm not really. I like to eat unhealthy food from time to time, ice cream, not only in the summer. But when I was preparing for the interview and I watched your YouTube videos, well, actually, to be congruent with what I was saying, I was snacking on some Lebanese nuts. Maybe you know them, krikri, very delicious.
Yep.
And you were talking about healthy eating, and I felt so badly. I had to push the snack bag out away. But I enjoyed your all your videos. I watched many of them in English. Some are in French. I exercised in the beginning, and I want to tell everyone that it's worth the time. They are brief, they are straight to the point, educational, accurate, amazing. Thank you for sharing this on
My
social
pleasure.
media.
More to come very soon.
Yay! I'm happy to know.
Yeah.
So without much delay, let's start. So first, before asking you about your definition, your own definition of health, I want to say that maybe you know that I teach a course called Health Psychology. And in that course, we start by talking about health beliefs and how they have changed throughout history. So first was like health, like, mystical forces, illness, I mean, like mystical forces. Then it was more like a sin. Then we got into the biomedical model of health and disease. So more like we have symptoms, a number of symptoms, we have a syndrome. So that's the biomedical model. And now we're into, of course, the biomedical model for sure stood the test of time, but more into the biopsychosocial model of health, which takes into account also psychosocial factors like lack of social support, like family environment, poverty, etc. So my question for you is, in your own words, how do you define health? How do you explain it to your patients?
Well, basically, my definition of health is that which is agreed upon and stated by the World Health Organization definition of health, which does actually address the point you just mentioned about the psychosocial beliefs. So if we're going to read into this, it's very simple, and it states as the following. Health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. That's the definition of health. It doesn't mean you're healthy if you have good biomarkers, if you have good blood works, let's say, but you have a mental trouble or socially, you're not well fed and well, how to say, you don't feel well into your social integration. So if we go back to the word disease, disease is actually a contraption of two words, dis-ease. It's something that goes against the ease. It's against the harmony of all the systems that should be working and functioning together. So coming back to your question, I abide by this definition of health, and it's no coincidence that this was the definition that was adopted, because it touches the main aspects of a human being a social animal. So not only it's about biology, but it's about our surroundings and whatever happens around us and in between our ears.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Makes sense to me. I agree. So are you saying that also, as long as we are alive, we are in part both healthy and sick type of thing? So we can have chronic health conditions yet be well, but we can be without symptoms but unwell.
Totally.
Okay.
And there's a word called homeostasis, which is like all the factors working and functioning properly in harmony together. And it takes one factor to go haywire for this harmony to be broken. So at any given time, we can be healthier than other times. And sometimes we can literally fall ill or sick because of a major disruption in one or many factors of this. So as you stated, I might have some chronic disease, let's say. Take the example of a genetic problem. But I'm very well in my social surroundings. I'm very well supported in my mental state, it doesn't mean I'm sicker than somebody else who might have the great blood and blood works and blood markers, but then who are really, really, really struggling with their social belonging and interactions.
Absolutely. That is encouraging. Actually, it's a piece of good news you are giving us. I don't know if you're familiar with the work of a medical sociologist called Aaron Antonovsky. I like his conception of illness and wellness, like a continuum.
Isn't he the one who went for the salutogenesis?
Could be,
Yep.
but I'm not 100% sure. But I
Yep.
know about this continuum
Yep.
that it
Yep.
goes from a state of wellness to a state of premature death. So we move across it
Yep.
along in life. And it's not like a question, as you said, exactly lack of symptoms.
Yep.
It's really a question of a continuum, and so we can progress, right? And we can, of course, move forward.
Totally.
Which
So the works of Aaron Antonovsky, he built the core of his business in the 60s, and he's the one who conceptualized the concept of salutogenesis. So he approached the state of well-being from a different angle. He said, well, medicine and healthcare has been developed into looking for whenever there is a disease, into whenever something's not right. And he asked himself actually the big question, what makes health instead of what causes disease?
Absolutely.
And it's a totally new approach to healthcare, which is taking more and more interest into our concepts, our conceptualization of modern medicine, and lack of research, but it's taking more and more traction. There's a big salutogenesis institute in Switzerland. The problem to that is, change takes time, and changing the paradigms and the thoughts, especially that of populations, countries, nations, governments, is very hard to implement.
Absolutely.
So this is, in a sense, he's the, if we want to talk about it in a very broad way, he's the instigator of go look for what makes you well before you fall sick, and then you start looking for solutions.
That is amazing. So it's into preventive medicine more.
In a sense, yes.
Yeah, what keeps us healthy, which actually I'm going to ask you a question related to that. So according to you, what is it that keeps people healthy, given all what you just said earlier, or what keeps people healthy, or what makes them recover when they are unwell? We know, of course, our immune system functions less optimally when we are aging, but what could help in making people recover faster or well, or keeping them healthy?
So if we go back to the definition of health, it's a state of physical, mental, and social well-being. So the physical well-being could be objectified, could be made objective. Okay, we could have numbers, we could have markers, we could have quantities, but then you have the mental and the social dimension, which are kind of subjective. So we cannot put numbers on mental health. We cannot put numbers or scores on social well-being, because on this end, it's very much personal. In a sense, somebody who's really extroverted will be miserable if left alone. But somebody introverted will find their well-being into being alone. So that's the personal dimension. Mental health is the same thing. That which might affect you, Rima, might not affect me. That which is miserable to you might be very motivating to me. And I always liked giving the example of the scar on the face. So take a young lady in her prime who, due to an accident, gets a scar on her face. It's the end of the world for her. She will be miserable. She will live it as a trauma and as a scar. But take that same scar on the face and give it to a soldier warrior defending his nation and coming back from war with a scar on his face. It's a badge of honor.
It's a very good example.
So this is very, very personal and subjective. On the other hand, concerning the physical well-being, there we can talk about what's going on properly and what's not properly functioning. So what makes a person healthy? There are parts that are commonly known, and basically we're a machine. If we want to look what a human being is, we are technically a brain that developed all the outer structure to move it in time and space to feed, replenish, and reproduce. That comes to the core of the animal we are, save for the mental dimension or for the social dimension or the psyche or the consciousness. So what makes a person healthy? There is what matters to the person personally on the subjective end of it, how that person's inner mental mind working finds its solace, okay? And this cannot be defined arbitrarily, okay? But then again, if you know if a person likes to be outgoing and suddenly in a state of depression, you see that person being more and more recluse, you know that what will make better or healthier is to support that person and take her out again. But on the end where we can actually act, and we can actually act objectively, that is physical health. We are a creature built for motion. We are not built to stay still. By definition, that's how we are made. That's how our machine is built. That's why we have muscles, and that's why we have bones. And on the other hand, there is the biology of our body, what we put in. So basically, in order for us to be alive, we need to feed, essentially, before moving on to the different Maslow pyramid basic needs and basic instincts. So we need to put fuel into our body so this machine can work, just like you would put the fuel in a car. And you need to add in some oil and maybe some water so it doesn't heat. And so it works properly. And on that end, it's about what kind, are we properly moving? Are we actually investing into the range of motion our body was designed for? Are we properly fueling with the proper nutrients, proper fuel again? So this is, what are we eating? Are we properly hydrating? Because water is basically present in the majority of all our chemical processes. And this comes to that. What do you eat? How much do you move? How do you move? To which frequency you move? And how much do you hydrate? And what do you consume? What do you put inside your body aside the basic needs? Do you drink alcohol? Do you smoke? Do you take drugs? Do you take medications? So it's a very broad thing. What makes a person healthy? The basics. It's not complicated. It's not rocket science. Hence, there are so many myths that feed upon the fear of people, but we'll come to that in a later segment. So eat properly, hydrate properly, move properly, and properly is the key word, okay? And pay attention to what you put inside your body. That's on the physical end. On the mental end, pay attention what you feed your mind, not your brain, your mind, the thoughts you nourish, the patterns you do, the people you surround yourself with. So that's the social end of it. And pay attention to what input you get from these three dimensions. Are you bringing junk input into yourself? Are you being surrounded with bad people? Are you being surrounded with people who don't push you to be the best version of yourself? Are you surrounding yourself with, or are you putting yourself in circumstances that are the right environment? Think of a plant. If the plant is in the wrong environment, no matter how you properly feed it, it won't properly grow. And no, if you talk nicely to a plant, it doesn't work. Okay, that's a great myth. Sorry. Now haters gonna hate, but no, it doesn't work. I can tell my plant 20 times a day, I like you, I love you. And if it's in a bad environment, it's not gonna function. And if I curse at my plant, it's still gonna grow if it has the right conditions for it.
Okay, that's reassuring. I really liked so many things you said and touched on, and I just don't want us to go for the sake of time into details into everything. But you mentioned something about the scar on the face of someone younger, a lady or a soldier, you said, and I want to say it's so true what you're saying. Think of pain, how it's if it's soldier pain, it's well known. It's because of the motivation, or those soccer players or hockey players, we see they keep going despite the injury. And even if the trainers would say, stop, you need to stop, or they put a spray of some sort and they keep going. I find that amazing. Whereas if you are like a civilian during war, you've been through war, both of us, you're like, you're basically, you didn't choose war, like violence, and so the pain has a different meaning, physical pain from the injury, of course. So
I'm going to give you even a more mundane example. So say you, Rima, in all your pride, walking proud among people on the street, and just happens you trip over something and you fall. So you're gonna just stand up
laugh.
and brush it off and walk. And even though you might have scorched your chin bone, the pain is not gonna handicap you. Whereas if you're really angry and you're at home and just passing by that table and hitting your foot on the corner of that table, you're gonna be nearly paralyzed by pain. And you're still the same person. So
You're
it
absolutely right.
also has it also has a brain dimension and a mental dimension to it.
You're absolutely right. You're making me think of a funny example. I was once in Toronto walking with my husband on the street and talking to a friend. Well, if he's listening, he will recognize himself. And so we're laughing, talking, and and I fell down into a big hole, something on the street, construction, really bad thing. So Louis saw me inside this thing, but I kept talking. Because the story was so interesting. I was in pain, but like the story was more interesting.
You were able to absorb it.
Yes.
Good.
Okay, so now let's move to talk about exercise. How can exercise, when I say exercise, I mean also physical activity, because I mentioned I do exercise, of course, but not like gym machines or those big way, my own type of exercise or dance in the past. How can I say that? How can exercise or physical activity enhance health? Or what could be some of the benefits of exercise?
Okay. So it's a good thing you mentioned the nuance between exercise and gym. Gym, or going and hitting and weightlifting, is a form of exercise. Exercise is any form of deliberate motion. Okay, you decide to take a walk, you decide to dance, you decide to cycle, to ride your bike, you decide to hit the weights. So according to the major medical consensus, in order for us to be in good health, we need at least 150 minutes of active exercise per week. When you think about it, 150 minutes, it's half an hour of exercising 6 days a week. And if you just walk to your work and it takes you 20 minutes going on and 20 minutes coming back, you're already into your 40 minutes. Now, if you decide to do a 10-minute stretching in the evening, watching your favorite TV show, that's an additional 10 minutes. So exercising is honoring what your body is made for. It's made for motion. Then you give it motion. Different modalities of exercise will have different outcomes and will target different needs and different states of your body. So that's the basic of exercising. There is no one exercise that rules them all. I want to say something, and we're gonna hit it into the myth busting section if we get to it. In matters of human health, there is never one thing that makes you sick or makes you well. Early on, you mentioned, I've been eating unhealthy food and I don't train and I don't have a problem, and then I felt bad. Let's speak about weight management. It's not one bad meal that's gonna make you fat, and it's not one good healthy eating day that's gonna make you healthy. It's not one day of training that's gonna make you healthy. And it's not one rest day that's gonna make you sick. Okay? It's so many things together. So did I answer the question there?
Oh, yes. So you talked about exercise, like frequency, right? You touched on that. And you talked about...
Now, concerning exercise, yeah, this is what I wanted to come back to. Concerning exercise, certain exercise have demonstrated certain benefits that are universally beneficial to us. Lately, in the past couple of years, we had finally have large cross studies of human controlled trials and everything. And we finally have one specific verdict concerning longevity. If you want to live longer, healthier, in a better shape, and more autonomous, you need to have more muscle mass.
Mm-hmm.
And muscle mass is built by stimulating the muscle. So by training against resistance. It doesn't mean you need to go to hit the gym 7 hours a week. It's not that. You could resistance train or weight train 10 minutes a day by simply deciding to do basic exercises. This is one of the driving factors of whatever I'm trying to do and to launch as business, to try to help people live longer, requiring less and less dependence on healthcare systems and not needing different persons to take care of you as you age. So I want humans to be able to live longer, healthier, more autonomous, and non-dependent on other people. And this has been proven to be achieved through the amount of muscle mass you have. Because when you train, when you have more muscle mass, you stimulate bone growth, amazing. You stimulate your immune system, amazing. You reduce your body fat, even more amazing. You train your heart, your lungs, and your vascular system. What more to ask for? You have a better metabolism. And the only thing that has been so far proven, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it's more your field here, but the only scientific thing that has been proven to reduce or limit cognitive decline due to age is exercise. It's not your daily Sudoku. It's exercise. The more you exercise, you oxygenate your tissues, you stimulate cell growth, and you strengthen all your systems. You want to reduce cognitive decline, save for genetic disorders like Alzheimer's. Actually, Alzheimer's has been also shown to be kept at bay by exercising. You need to have more muscle mass. You need to exercise. So if you're a very stiff person, you need to work your mobility and your flexibility. So as we age, you can actually keep putting your socks on, and you can actually stand up from a low chair.
Uh-huh. And
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I interrupted you. I got excited. You touched on the immune system. You said there's also, of course, the anti-inflammatory effect of exercise.
Yes.
Yeah.
So upon that, I'm gonna use an analogy. Please, for those scientific people out there, don't kill me for that, okay? It's an analogy I'm taking. Our body needs to have specific energy expenditure, okay? And say metaphorically, there is a specific level of inflammation the body needs to have. Actually, inflammation is good. It's what allows our tissues to adapt.
Yes.
It's when inflammation goes out of hand that it becomes problematic, okay? Let's say we have a specific amount of inflammation the body needs to discard. Whenever we work out, whenever we move, whenever we exercise, a huge chunk of that inflammation will go into the aftermath of this exercise in order for our tissues to regenerate and adapt and heal and recover. So the less we use something that takes a chunk of that needed inflammation, the more that inflammation is going to be there and is going to start flaring up elsewhere. Research has shown the effects of exercise into systemic inflammation. You know, when people say, I have inflammation in my body, it's like, yeah, first of all, the more fat you have, the more basal inflammation you might be prone to, because fat cells release adipokines, which are a pro-inflammatory factor. The more muscle you have, the more you will liberate, not cytokines, sorry, myokines, which have also a part of anti-inflammatory effect. But why is it that when people feel sluggish, and I have irritable bowel syndrome, but it's not and I have high inflammation and I have water retention, but since I started doing yoga 3 times a week, well, my inflammation level dropped. It's because you're taking a chunk of that basal inflammation and you're using it where it wants to. Again, it's a metaphor, but look at it this way.
Very interesting. I really liked how you made people see the different differences between chronic inflammation, low-grade chronic inflammation, and the inflammatory response that is good for survival, like stress. Acute stress is actually good. It will make us
Exactly.
act. It will it makes us escape or fight, whereas chronic stress could be detrimental to health.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's one factor. It's not like the only factor.
It's always one thing amongst many. One thing amongst many. It doesn't mean if you have high systemic idiopathic, so with no reason, inflammation, that doing yoga twice a week will cure you. It won't. You're going to pay attention to, are you eating inflammatory food? Are you miserable in your mental or social well-being? Are you properly training? Are you doing what needs to be done on the whole spectrum of things?
Wow, how interesting. I want to ask you a question that is not on nutrition, not on exercise, but important as well. Sleep. Can you tell us something about sleep, quantity, quality?
There's an amazing book there. I advise your viewers to read. It's called Why We Sleep. It's a bestseller. It finally vulgarized the importance of sleep. Now, sleep, that's maybe the weirdest human experience. I mean, for whatever amount of time, you're not there. And you are not in control and you're not conscious of your sleep. Now, sleep is necessary and is essential to living, not only to properly functioning, to living. You cannot deprive a person from sleep for more than many days. All aspects of the definition of health, physical, mental, and social, will be hurt. Okay? The main reason we sleep is to recover and regenerate our tissue, especially these in our brain, and to create new neuron connections in the brain. So say you learn something today, say you study a thing, you read an article, you want to know more about it. Whenever we stress our brain with information, the brain has to adapt and has to integrate it in new circuitry. Okay? This is how we learn things. And correct me if I'm wrong, that's your field again.
That's awesome.
And in order to consolidate these new pathways, in order to give the brain a chance to build these new pathways, we need to sleep, and we need to go into the different stages of sleep, from the deep sleep to the light sleep to the REM sleep, which is the rapid eye movement sleep, which is where dreams occur. And by the way, the REM sleep is the most important sleep for muscle recovery and immune system buildup, whereas the deep sleep is there to rearrange the damage caused by thinking, because when we train, we damage the muscle spindle, and then it gets and we recover and gets repaired and we get stronger. Same goes for the brain. The more we work our brain, the more we kind of metaphorically damage links. You know, there is waste, there is these roads get potholes in them, and in order to make the maintenance, we need to go into a state of sleep where the brain can turn off different functions and concentrate into rebuilding its own pathways and recreating its own pathways. You want the fastest way to learn and memorize something, read it, focus on it, and take a 20-minute nap. And the studies have actually been made on kids and on children, like toddlers, really, really small children, where they put us in an environment, put them in an environment where they had to play cognitive games, and those who took an immediate nap immediately able to perform it again, whereas those who didn't nap took a longer time to integrate it. So we sleep to rest our brain, create new pathways, take off many tasks where our brains is busy during the day, so it could allocate different resources into creating new pathways, into directing new orders to the body. And that's why it's so essential. It's more than essential, it's like vital.
Exactly, it's vital. And I really like that example of so would be good for students perhaps listening or to sleep well the night before an exam. And it's not the right time to study quickly, fast.
Absolutely, absolutely. The less we sleep, the less we integrate, and we won't be able to have our the total capacity of our mental acuity if we didn't properly sleep. Now, caffeine and other drugs provide a false sense of alertness, but it's like driving on overdrive. So you could get away with it once or twice, but when you live in it, when you live on your amphetamines, when you live on your, and sadly, this is a thing that really matters to me. All these students who, due to lots of mental university workload, resort to faking results, into getting ADHD medication, mostly amphetamines, so they can perform more. It's like you're burning your resource. You're burning your resources. And it's a fake thing. It's not like taking cocaine will make you smarter. You think you're smarter, but you're actually damaging your brain cells and you're not yourself. Just drink lots of caffeine and see how jittery you get.
Very
Which,
interesting.
by the way, I'm not giving the good example, but I'm still on my first mug today, so cheers to
Cheers.
that.
Okay, on this note, let's move to our second theme, which is about myth and misconceptions. I just want to ask one broad question. What are some common misconceptions about physical activity or fitness? And what are the scientific facts about these myths? You touched on something earlier. Do you want to speak to that or something else?
So you said, what are the most common misconceptions or myths? I mean, how much time do you have?
Viewers can always stop, do something else, exercise while watching and listening.
The thing is, there is so much, trying to stay polite here, but there's so much rubbish out there fueled by the social media phenomenon. I can't wrap my head around it. So first, people are being constantly bombarded with conflictual information. So-called influencers, from people who have no credential whatsoever to be references and experts, who end up discouraging clients or giving them bad advice. There is this misconception that, let's take one example. In order for me to lose weight, I need to work out 2 hours a day, every day. Well, yeah, it's gonna give a result, but is it optimal for your general health? I don't think so. It might be overtraining. It might be hurting you. That's not how it works. Exercise should be adapted to the person's capacity. That's why it's always a good idea to hire a knowledgeable, and I stress on knowledgeable, personal trainer, or any equivalent professional like a physiotherapist or kinesiologist, whatever, somebody who got the knowledge. And it should be adapted to your actual capacity and your actual physical state and your mental state, because motivation is actually a part of exercising. If I'm going to force you to exercise, you're not going to be motivated. It's not going to work. That's why everybody works out from January 1st to February 2nd, and they stop. They renew their February gym membership. And so other people will come and tell you, you want to lose weight? Well, you know what? You better just go to the gym, or you have to run. Well, running is not made for all people.
Absolutely.
Go do yoga. Maybe my body, my mechanics are not adapted to yoga, or I simply hate it. I myself, Patrick, tried yoga and I just simply didn't like it. I'd rather spend 2 hours of muscular stretching than going into a yoga thing, because it didn't put me in a good mental place. It was forced. I was forcing it.
Got you.
I myself noticed, due to genetic testings, that if I want to lose or burn some excess fat, long distance running will not help me. And this is genetic. And this is something I'm now delving deep into, the genetic factors. But I knew that if I do 5 sprints a day of 20 seconds only, it just burns my fat away. In addition to proper food management, and in addition to proper healthy lifestyle. So that's one myth. Or you have the other myth of, you want to lose fat, you gotta cut dinner. You gotta go to bed on an empty stomach. Or others will tell you intermittent fasting is the thing. Others will tell you go paleo diet, go carnivore diet, go Atkins. Funny thing is, through the ages, through modern history, at least on my watch for the past 30 years, we've seen trends in nutrition, and each trend promised to be the definitive and the definite save it all. I'm your savior. I'm the diet. Well, it doesn't work like that. If we found the solution, nothing else would have subsided. Now, if we found the solution, why would we still be inventing new trends?
Even
Again,
the Mediterranean diet, sorry to interrupt you, even the Mediterranean diet.
Even the Mediterranean diet is a healthy, balanced diet. The thing about Mediterranean diet is the balance it brings. But then again, you might need to make some tweaks into it. Because don't forget, it's also a matter of calories in, calories out, amount of nutrients in, amount of nutrients out. I myself train hard. I require a higher import of protein than somebody who lives a regular physical style. Mediterranean diet for me needs to be tweaked and adapted so I get higher protein ratio while in the same time not getting more fat and carbs into it.
How interesting.
So again, it is a matter of personal needs and genetic functioning of your human body. There's no simple cure. Now you see people swearing by the carnivore diet made me drop my inflammation. I stopped having my Crohn's disease. Okay, maybe genetically your body processes this kind of diet better than a high carbs diet, which genetically might be pro-inflammatory to you. Stop selling it as you found truth. That which worked for you won't work for somebody else. I myself eat tons of gluten. It suits me fine. Somebody else might either have water retention, irritable bowel syndrome or disease, Crohn's disease, celiac, whatever it is. It's again, these are myths. There is no one thing to do. And you don't need to kill yourself to lose weight. And there is another misconception, also another myth. No pain, no gain. Rubbish. Pain is a signal. It's telling you that there is something off in what you're doing. Now, how you dose it, there's a difference between pain and positive discomfort. So yes, whenever I go and train, whenever you go and decide to take your walk because you're making changes, yes, it's uncomfortable at first because you got used to a different system, but you can dose it. So when proper exercise is actually adapted to you, you will immediately get hooked up to it. Immediately. Your brain will reward you with good happiness, neurotransmitters and hormones. Whenever there's something not adapted to you, your brain will make you hate it. Again, the January gym membership. You move from total sedentary to 6 days a week ninja warrior. Your brain will hate it. You will start developing injuries. You will hurt yourself. You won't recover properly. You won't be giving your brain your brain and your body what they need. So they will make you hate it, and unconscious wins over conscious. Okay, let's put it this way. Whereas whenever things are adapted, we get addicted to it. I mean, we're addicted to food. That's that's a nature mechanism for survival.
To ice
whenever
cream.
we have food, whenever we have sexual activity, we're rewarded with happy hormones.
Yes.
So we keep on doing it so we can procreate, so we can keep feeding ourselves. Whenever a thing is properly adapted, you will need more of it. So I've seen in my practice, and I've been practicing for 20 years now, many people come to me because they were forced to by their spouse or friend. I need to train. I have high cholesterol. I want to lose some weight, whatever. I tried gym in the past and nothing worked. And my friend told me, or my spouse told me, you're a magician. I'm like, no, I'm not a magician. I just listen. If you hate working out for an hour, I'm going to put you on a 25 minutes regime. What's better, moving for 25 minutes or none at all? And then we're going to take it progressive. So when you move progressively into things, your body will adapt to it, your brain will adapt to it, and then you will need more and more and more. And so these are many myths and conceptions. No pain, no gain. No, no, doesn't work like that.
Thankfully. I really liked what you said to summarize. You said that you mentioned the word balance. I liked it, whether in the nutrition or in the way of exercising. And also you said it's personal. It's really, it fits one person. There's no one fit for all, right? So maybe these...
Now, there are basic guidelines. Like, it's known for everyone that if you're gonna eat only fat, you're gonna get sick. You know what I mean? Yes, you can eat. There's a famous example, everybody can Google it, of the guy who lost 30 to 50 pounds just eating McDonald's for 2 to 3 months.
Wow.
So it's easy. He made a claim, and he's a good guy. Okay, he's not something we should shun. He said you can lose weight independently of what you eat, because losing weight is a matter of calories in, calories out. So he restricted himself for a couple of months to only eating 1,500 calories of McDonald's
Wow.
every day, and he lost weight because he was spending 2,500. He was fueling with 1,500, imbalance. He lost weight, but it was bad for his systems, for his cardiovascular system, for the fat accumulation, for his heart health. Okay, so it's a combination of different factors. But this is another proof that yes, it can work, but is it good? So there are things that are standard. Yes, you can lose weight off of junk food, but is weight the only issue here? There is also the healthy markers. Do you want high cholesterol? Do you want high LDLs levels? Do you want high inflammation in your body? Go ahead, eat junk.
Yes.
So that's one example. There are standard guidelines. There are standard basic universal things related to how everybody's biology and bodies work. That's known. But if you don't eat protein at all, if you spend your whole day eating sugar, well, you're gonna burn through your muscle, and you're gonna be in a really bad shape and develop probably muscle disease or diabetes. Doesn't mean that you won't be alive, but you're gonna be in a really, really, really bad shape. Okay, so there are basics, but when it comes to that extra edge, there comes the personal touch.
Mm-hmm.
There comes the personal touch. Nobody's gonna tell you to drink 2 liters of coffee a day. It's known. Even if you have a fast coffee metabolism, which is genetic, by the way, like. So that's the dimension. There's a personal approach. That's why we consult with experts, and by experts I don't mean your gym influencer. I don't mean your tabloid or your scoop influencer.
Or
Eating seed oils is gonna make you sick. No,
yeah,
no,
or TikTok, whatever, something.
whatever, like any social media gurus.
Interesting. Okay, thank you, Patrick. So let's move now to our last and third theme about health tips. So I'm going to start with this question. It can be intimidating to start exercising if we have not done it for a while, or so restart or start. Any piece of advice?
Baby steps.
Baby steps.
Baby steps. Atomic Habits, if you haven't read the book, another great one. Integrate. In order for you to achieve a lifestyle, you need a goal. First, things need to make sense. Why do you want to do sports? Why do you want to train? Why do you want to correct your eating habit? When we understand, then it makes sense. When things make sense, we are more likely to abide by these. We are more likely then to be disciplined about it. Now, baby steps. If you're 55, 60 years old and you haven't taken an hour's walk your whole life, don't wake up tomorrow and go for an hour's walk. Walk 5 minutes. And then the next day, walk 7 minutes. And then the next week, walk 10 minutes. Let it make sense. Don't force it. Find a way to integrate it. So I'm a manual therapist. I give exercises to my clients. And the main problem is, oh, I didn't I didn't have the time to make the exercises you gave me. First, it's your exercise, it's not mine. Okay? Now, you wish to tell me that you don't have 30 seconds in your day to allocate to a specific stretch? Oh, yeah, but I forget. And then I said, well, how about integrating that specific thing to a routine thing you do? Say your shower time.
Interesting.
Integrate it. Every time you come out of your shower, you dry yourself, add 30 seconds of a stretch. So it's going to become automatic. You're not going to be in an alert state all day long and feel bad because, oh, I need to do it. I need to do it. I need to do it. I forgot to do it. Oh, I feel bad about it. No, integrate it. Baby steps, one thing at a time.
Again, I like that.
It's always one step at a time. It needs to make sense. So If your spouse is forcing you, okay, like keeping the fun in conversation now. If you're being pushed to go train because you have diabetes or you have a disease and whatever it is, if you're being forced, it means still it doesn't make sense to you. Go consult, go introspect, have conversations. Maybe the origin of your disease stems from a place where you're in a state of you don't feel well in your life. So you're not motivated to take care of yourself. You're kind of punishing yourself, and you take it out on food or on lack of motion. Sometimes the reason is very far away.
I totally agree. Someone may be under chronic stress, maybe a toxic relationship.
Anything. And you take it out on something else, and you might not be conscious of it. So if you wish to address something that makes sense rationally, but doesn't make sense to you, it's like everybody knows I need to be in a good shape. I need to eat well, but I'm not capable of eating well. Well, go deeper. If you don't have the answers to why you're kind of hurting yourself and you're hurting yourself, go consult, talk to a friend, have a deep conversation, go to a counselor, go to a psychotherapist, ask, talk, read books. Maybe you will get insights. The reason sometimes is very far away. I am a very busy person. I am able to squeeze in a 20 minutes training because it makes sense to me. A 20 minutes won't change. Like if my day has to end at 8 p.m., I tell myself, it's no problem if it ends at 8:20. 20 minutes is not going to change anything into my life, for example, because it makes sense to me. It made its sense. So if you're not capable of understanding why your motivation is not there, go deeper, talk to yourself. If you don't have answers, ask friends. They might have insights about you. You'd be surprised of. If nobody has an answer, seek professional help, counselor, advice, coach, whatever it is. But let things make sense to you and then take it one step at a time. And I often tell my clients, it took you 10 years to accumulate these 10 extra pounds. What makes you think it's rational to want to lose them in 1 month?
Yeah, makes sense.
Doesn't make, you took your time to put them on, and then suddenly you're in a state of emergency. What's your emergency? So give it a year to lose 10 pounds, and you're still on a very win-win, like 10 years to put them on, 1 year to shed them off. Hey, you're still awesome.
Yes.
Think about it. And people would go, well, I need to lose 20 pounds. It's like, yeah, half a pound a month. Over 2 years, you'll lose 12 pounds.
Wow.
What's half a pound? It's nothing. And then I can lose more than half a pound. That's quite the universal answer I have. I can lose more than half a pound. Like, okay, let's make it 1 pound. And in the coming 2 years, you will be 25 pounds thinner, healthier, enjoying running with your kids or your grandkids or your partner, and feeling lighter and being in a better mental, physical, social space, and feeling less bad about yourself. Just give it some time. Baby steps, half a pound a month, 1 pound a month is 200 calories less a day. 200 calories is what? Ridiculously. Couple of Tic Tacs.
Right. Wow. I have a question that I didn't think of, but now it's coming to my mind. You mentioned addiction with exercise, but you mentioned it in a positive way, like addiction for survival, addiction. You mentioned sex and things. Could exercise become addictive in a bad way, like an addiction? You know what I mean, like a drug.
Exactly.
And so what do we do when it happens?
So again, if we think of balance, there's a spectrum from 0 to totally addicted. We need to find the balance in between. Oftentimes, just like people become workaholics for no need, people can become gym rats, can become addicted and hurt themselves into their addiction, into training. So they will end up overtraining. And there is a genetic component to it, as well as a psychological factor to it. Some genetic components will make people, especially that genetic marker that has to do with intrinsic motivation. Yes, there's a gene for motivation, a couple of genes actually. These people need to be properly coached so they don't inadvertently fall into becoming addicted to it or overdoing it. But generally, any kind of addictive behavior has its roots somewhere else. So some people become sexaholics. Some people become workaholics. Some people become trainingaholics, if we're going to stay into the holics. This demonstrates an underlying problem that goes way out. Some people will have eating disorders. Like that's a case example for somebody wanting to lose weight and suddenly becoming anorexic. Okay, so people will become bulimic, will develop disorders, will become anorexic, or will want to train no matter what, and it's going to start impacting their social life and their mental state. They become brainwashed into their own way or not, but this points out to a deeper underlying problem, which should actually be addressed, again, by introspection, proper reading information, friends and surroundings feedback, and or professional help. And this should be pointed out. So you cannot go from being addicted to, let's say, nicotine when you quit smoking and replace an addiction with an addiction. That's another pattern we often see.
Interesting.
So it doesn't work like that. You need to go deeper into things, and you need to be temperate. You need to remain balanced. So this is another danger of unhealthy living. Yes, training itself is healthy. Properly eating is healthy. But everything in excess becomes bad. Praying in excess is bad. Okay? For those believers, you spend your time praying, eventually it's going to affect your life. You're going to become like one of these brainwashed gurus. Okay? Same for everything. It points out to an underlying problem, and it's that problem that should be properly addressed in order to find balance, in order to find homeostasis, in order to find a balanced way of properly living physically, socially, and mentally. Remember, it's a mental thing too. 3 dimensions to the human being.
That's amazing. Thank you, Patrick. I do have one last question.
As many as you want.
Actually, you have an entire video devoted to menstrual cycle and exercise. And I want to say thank you for that. And you have another video on protein supplements. So if I extrapolate and integrate the two ideas, so the supplements and reproductive system women, my question for you is about specifically, let's say, perimenopausal women, the years leading to menopause and of menstruation. This could be like a couple of years, but it could be up to 8 or 10 years, depending on each woman is different. So women think, I'm asking because I have a lot of viewers who may be women like me and was thinking, what about those supplements for instance, to prevent low bone density, like calcium, vitamin D? What about iron for those who are prescribed iron needing it? What is your advice or thoughts around that? Is it better to rely on nutrition first? Because here in Canada, our milk is fortified with vitamin D. In the summer, we have the sunshine, right? In other countries, like our birth country, I don't think milk is fortified, right? But I mean, here we're lucky for that. It is? Oh, it's good to know. Thank you. I didn't know. My time, I'm older maybe than you. It wasn't. Yeah, so do we balance it, supplements with nutrition, or both, or one over the other? Any piece of advice?
Okay, thank you for asking this question, because there's a lot of misinformation and wrong informations out there. So first, on the genetic factor, depending on different genes in your body, you might, depending on which genes you have and which specific, what we call the SNPs, like which variations on your gene you have, some bodies absorb better nutrients than other do. Some bodies have a natural genetic tendency to properly absorbing iron, other have a natural tendency to properly absorbing calcium, and so on with every nutrients, while the opposite is true also. Basic genetic testing could help you give a lead. This doesn't mean you're going to be any nutrient deficient, micronutrient deficient. So this is part one. Part two, you asked, is it only in nutrition? Now, again, it's not only one thing. You might, let's say you want to stimulate bone density. Yes, it takes calcium, it takes vitamin D to fixate calcium and phosphorus in your bone, and a plethora of other hormonal and chemical processes happening inside your body. But this might, and I say might, not be enough. Sometimes you need to stimulate this bone growth by exercising. So you exercise, you contract these muscles pull on the bone has to respond to the stress overload, it will thicken and it will get denser. That's an example.
Weight-bearing exercise.
Resistance training. Resistance could be with elastics, could be with lifting charges, could be with your HIIT, your cardio, your CrossFit, anything. So that's one example. For example, runners can stimulate their legs better than sedentary people. Okay, so any stress on the body will create an adaptation syndrome, general adaptation syndrome. It's called the GAS principle, general adaptation syndrome principle. So you submit to a stress, you adapt to it. Now,
Hans Selye, Dr. Selye.
Yeah. Now, concerning supplements, there are supplements who work, there are supplements that doesn't work, and there are supplements that are just marketing gimmicks. The main question is, do I need to take supplements? Well, let's check your blood. Let's check your bone density. Let's do the tests which are going to show us what you have going on inside your body. You might know that genetically, you might have more trouble getting iron. Okay, fine. But if you do your test and your iron level or your ferrous level, ferritin levels are fine, do you need to supplement? No. If your hemoglobin is right, do you need to supplement? No. If your blood work shows you have enough levels of calcium and vitamin D in your work, do you need to supplement? No. So the approach is, again, step-by-step, rational, common sense approach. Firstly, are you eating enough of the nutrients you need? If you're doing your part and then tests show that you have deficiencies, then you will be prescribed by a qualified healthcare professional, your doctor or anyone that's qualified, your nutritionist, any specific vitamins in order for you to supplement what you lack. Okay, this is where it's called a supplement, it's not called a replacement. You have to do your part to give your body what it naturally needs from the normal means, which is proper food, proper hydration, proper balanced rich diet into all the nutrients and the macros and the micronutrients needed. And from that point on, if you have deficiencies, you will go test for them. You shall not assume it, because you might hurt yourself if you assume it. And then you will be prescribed the specific vitamins and minerals and or protein supplements in case of protein you need. Why do people require more protein supplements and powders? Because proper calorie counting nutrition sometimes might not give you enough protein. And if you're going to up your protein intake, you might end up eating lots of calories that's going to make you gain weight. So then you take one scoop of that protein, which is basically milk or vegetable source, okay, to supplement. It's like drinking your extra glass of milk per day, let's say, okay? So if you don't have the need for extra protein, you should not be supplementing with extra protein. It doesn't make sense. On rest days, I do not supplement with protein because my food gives me enough amount, like the required amount. And on training days, I need to give it an extra notch because getting it through food is going to actually have me add a whole meal. And we know it's going to be hard to manage. And I cannot eat more, like physically. So concerning pre-menopause, perimenopause, first, to all you women out there getting through that stage in life, it is very normal and healthy to gain anywhere between 2 to 10 pounds over the span of that period. It's mostly due to hormonal change and imbalance, and it's gonna have an effect on your metabolism. So some are genetically lucky, will not experience weight gain. Some will experience mild and others will go haywire. And even if you do your part, you might end up gaining more than 20 pounds. As long as you stick to healthy eating according to your need, let your body do its thing, because once it's done, then you can address it and take it down. And yes, you can take it down again. But fighting your body in its labor won't work for you. You will be both physically and morally, mentally miserable. Respect what you are. It's all about self-loving, and we see all these self-help sections, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and love yourself and listen to yourself. Well, listen to yourself without having to buy 27 books and following gurus.
Save your money.
Save it. Save yourself. So your body will be undergoing changes, and these changes are beyond your control. Sometimes you might need to refer to supplementation in specific areas, again, when it shall be supervised and backed up by numbers. Many herbal supplements have been proven to have some effect, but can be very bad if taken without proper consultations. The majority of products are just placebo effect. Yes, I'm very scientific about my things, and we have studies that prove or disprove stuff. But listen to your body. Be kind to people, but it means be kind to yourself.
Exactly.
If your body is undergoing deep changes, allocate your mental resource to absorb and deal with these changes as they come. They're already hard enough. Don't beat yourself up also, because what if you gain 10 more pounds? Society is going to judge you. So what? Is it going to affect how people love you? Well, if it is, well, these are not the right people for you.
Yes.
You have to make choices. If your spouse is gonna give you a hard time because you're not the baby doll he married, well, this says there's a problem in your relationship, not in your body, not in yourself. This is to me, this is proper empowerment. It's rational empowerment. So for premenopause, perimenopause, full-blown menopause, postmenopause, check your body markers. If you're healthy, and I lived that on a personal level. She gained 20 pounds. No, not my wife. I'm not married, but I know a friend of mine. She gained 20 pounds and she was going crazy as she gained 20 pounds. And all her blood works showed she was in great health. She was training every day. Just her body wanted to have its own thing for a while. That's what she had to do. Own your weight gain and own that part of your life which tells your story. It's like, that's your story. I don't want to remain a 16-year-old kid my whole life. I want to grow old, and I want to say, hey, I've earned my stripes and I grew old, and I'm going to show you how I want to grow old in good shape. I'm going to prove that growing old is not a death sentence. It's in itself another stage, like childhood, adolescence, young adulthood, mid-age, whatever you call it. Respect your body. Supplement when needed. If you don't know, ask a professional. And if you're gonna make a complaint about the medical system, keep looking until you find the proper professional for you.
Very interesting.
Don't fall into excuses. Oh, the system does not listen to me when I say. Sometimes there's a reason your doctor is not listening to you, because you're coming with off scientific topics. Other times, not everybody is a rocket engineer. You might need to go looking for another rocket engineer if
or
you're
not, or not everyone have a family doctor or
exactly. So but you can still find and manage a way. Keep fighting instead of falling into bigger, better, faster now scams that are eventually at the end of the road going to hurt you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Patrick. That was so educational, so enriching, so fun, much fun. I think we can stop here. Do you have something you want to add?
If I may, I came into a quote from Hippocrates, okay? And Hippocrates has been there around 400 BC, okay? And this might resume it for everyone. And it's a message of hope I'm going to end up with after that quote. That quote states the following. Eating alone will not keep a man well. He must also take exercise. For food and exercise, while possessing opposite qualities, yet work together to produce health. And it is necessary, as it appears, to discern the power of various exercises, both natural exercises and artificial, to know which of them tends to increase flesh and which to lessen it. And not only this, but also to proportion exercise to bulk of food, to the constitution of the patient, to the age of the individual. So
Wow.
it's literally talking about the benefits of leading a balanced life, properly exercising, properly feeding according to your own personal differences. That's 2,500 years ago.
Wow.
And it still follows and abides by the same logic. Now, I want to end up on a message of hope. We live in a period of our times where we are bombarded by so much negative thoughts that were created by marketing insights to feed upon our fears, to make us consume whatever it is we consume in order to benefit a specific niche of people, whatever their ulterior motive is. Some people are good, some people are bad. The basic format is, do you suffer from this? Then do that. Do you feel miserable here? Then do that. And with the abundance of information we are subjected to, we get overwhelmed, and then we got paralysis of choice. And we end up doing nothing, and we end up feeling miserable and beating each other, beating ourselves.
And each other, in the words of...
Sorry. I urge people to just stop. Stop, take a moment, stop, breathe. Go stand out on your balcony without a phone in your hand. Stop and breathe.
I like that.
And then slowly reflect. What matters to me? What do I want? What's my purpose? If I don't have the answers to these, start there. Answer the basic question, what matters to me? Is it health? Is it social? Is it family? Is it a combination of many things? Once you know what matters to you, then you will naturally and automatically be prompted into finding solutions. Stay calm, breathe, and take baby steps toward reaching that solution. It is easier than you think. The abundance of information and complexity of words makes it look very hard and very complex and out of reach. It's easy. Our human body, our human mind have been the same for the past hundreds of thousands of years, even way before history has been written.
I love your message.
Life is good. Life is good if we stop. Life is good if we stop feeding our minds with poisonous news that are just there as clickbaits. Watch only the news that are pertinent to your case. Read only the books that are pertinent to you. Only talk to people that make you feel at ease. Save yourself. Don't wait for a special miracle to save you. Nothing will save you. You will save yourself. It's in your reach. Just stop, breathe, calm down, and if you don't have the knowledge, ask for it. It's there.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you so much. So bringing it to oneself and a message of hope and empowerment. Thank you, Patrick, so much.
Thank you for having me, Rima.
I enjoyed our chat more than you think. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Anytime. Thank you for having me on your podcast, may I say?
Yeah, why
it
not?
Was a pleasure.
Thank
it was
you.
A pleasure.
And keep it up, keep going. I'm gonna stop the recording, but I have to find my spot now. Just 1 second. Stop.